And this just makes sure that when you're sending quality candidates over, they interview well. And this speaks to your reputation as a recruiter, that you deliver high quality candidates that don't just have the right experience, but they know how to articulate it well. And this is especially important for executive recruiters. This can be absolutely game changing and transforming. And it's something that creates so much value, not just for the hiring managers, but also the candidates. They will appreciate you. Anytime that they have any kind of business or referral, they will remember you because you went the extra mile. And the extra mile only took you 10 minutes with ChatGPT.
Initiating becoming a hiring machine sequence in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Sam Keenley, and welcome to Becoming a Hiring Machine. This is the show dedicated to fixing recruitment by going beyond saying what needs to change and instead teaches you how to make that change. Today, we have an amazing Tactical Tuesday ahead of us, but before we get into it, I want to tell you a little bit about the show. Essentially, we have shows within the show. Sometimes we have interviews with industry thought leaders and others who are shaking up the space, and they're going to teach you how to do something that's helped make them successful. Some days we're going to cover trending topics, items that recruiters are talking about or will be very soon, and what those mean for them. Every Tuesday, like today, we drop a Tactical Tuesday episode where we go deep on how to do something that's going to help you drive better results in your day-to-day that you can get started with right away. Sometimes we open it up for QA. Listeners can drop in questions that they'd like to hear us take on, send those over to us at podcast@loxo.co, and occasionally you'll hear a mic drop episode from Matt where he shares something that's been bouncing around in his head about the recruitment space and things that you need to know about. For today's Tactical Tuesday episode, Vivien Maron is joining me again as our resident expert living at the intersection of recruitment and all things ChatGPT. Today is a part 2 of 3 mini-series on interview prep. Nearly every recruiter approaches candidate interview prep differently, but Vivien has cracked the code on the best way to set yourself and your candidates up for success. So part 1 was about general practices, and for today's part 2, she's going to walk us through creating a job-specific interview prep packet to help your candidate nail the toughest part of the interview process, the interview itself. So on that note, let's jump into it with Vivien.
Sounds good. Alrighty. So in this episode, we're going to switch things up a little bit. We're actually going to use the premium ChatGPT 1, the GPT-4. This one has better analytical skills, so it'll actually be able to help us create this fairly quickly. So today we're actually going to start off introducing ourselves as an executive recruiter. The reason why is because ChatGPT knows that executive recruiters, they have to put in that tiny bit of extra work to really make sure the process is going smoothly. There are more consultants that happen to be recruiting as opposed to recruiters that are really trying to just fill jobs. And this isn't to say that this is all recruiters do. There's a lot of consulting and market insights that need to be known, a great network and things like that. But it's just at a different level for executive recruiters that work on a C-suite level. There's a lot of white glove kind of service aspects to it that really distinguishes the executive recruiters from general recruiters. And this is not necessarily a negative. It's just a smaller difference. So in this case, we're going to pitch it as we're executive recruiters, just so that ChatGPT knows we're going to do this a little bit differently, a little bit more hands-on. So we're going to start out by saying we would like to create an interview prep package for a specific position that we're working on, and we're going to add the job description in there. So today we're actually going to be using the creative manager position that we used a couple of weeks ago. And in this case, ChatGPT is going to prepare it. So this was the creative manager role at Loxo. So it starts out by saying, understand the job, make sure that you are understanding what the business is, what is the landscape in the B2B SaaS business, what's the main focus in terms of content, what this company wants to focus on, and things like that. Then it moves on to kind of cover questions to expect and answers to prepare. So one example for the creative manager role that it's currently giving us is describe your experience with video production and graphic design. And it suggests that you kind of describe your experience in creating various types of content, including static ads, video ads, customer stories, micro videos, and product showcases. It then moves on to section 3 that includes preparing a portfolio, which includes videos, graphic designs, SEO examples, and some other work that may be relevant that you think would add value to your application. Then it goes into company research, saying understand their products and services, understand their core values and culture, research the company's presence on various digital channels, as well as understanding their ideal company profile. And it's pretty in-depth because it's still going. It then moves on to skills to highlight. So it's actually suggesting, hey, make sure that you highlight your creativity, your technical skills, more specifically proficiency in Google Analytics, Google Suite, WordPress, and YouTube, cross-functional collaboration, adaptability, meaning you're able to kind of be flexible and adapt new practices depending on what's needed at the moment, and role-specific preparation. So in this case, it's suggesting to stay updated on current trends in content creation and distribution, understanding the importance of SEO and video content, how to drive organic traffic, and things like that. So this is a really in-depth and great interview prep already, but we want to specify this and get this a little bit more specific to the specific candidate that is actually interviewing. So in this case, I have a fictional resume, and as always, make sure that you use a blinded resume. And if this is a confidential search, make sure that the company name is not included in the job description that you sent to ChatGPT. And now we're actually adding the resume. So essentially what I'm saying is, perfect, please tailor the interview prep package for a candidate with this resume and experience. And then I just copy and paste the blinded resume that doesn't have the candidate's name, contact information, or anything like that. This resume that I copied and pasted into ChatGPT is one that I got off Google. Very simple, like a generic template one. And right here, it is kind of saying, okay, perfect. In terms of job understanding, you have a very strong background in managing creative projects and leading diverse teams. This position at Loxo seems like a really great fit for your skills and experience. And then it kind of suggests questions to expect and answers to prepare. So again, it's just, can you describe a time when you successfully led a creative project from conception to completion? And here it actually suggests you could discuss the time you developed and executed a successful ad campaign at ABC advertising agency, discuss the creative process, the team's role, and the outcome of the project. And it kind of just keeps going on suggesting what to cover based on the resume that you have given it, so that the candidate kind of has a good idea of what specifically they could be highlighting. Portfolio preparation, it suggests what kind of ad campaigns you could be using from your past experience at, for example, ABC advertising agency, or design strategies from XYZ design studio. Company research, suggestions, skills to highlight specifically, and all that kind of stuff. Now, this is a great kind of overview, but we want to dive a little bit deeper and say, this is a great start. Please include the STAR method for answering questions. Provide an example of how to answer it. Suggest company research strategies and give actionable suggestions on all interview prep points. So this is where you kind of read through it, and this is where your experience as a recruiter really comes and shines, because this is where you can say, okay, I know the STAR method is so great when interviewing, but this is something that you kind of have to practice to kind of explain what was the situation, what was the task that needed to be done, what action did you take, and what was the result. This is also a great way to answer, what are your shortcomings? Is there a time that you have failed? And this is where you can say, hey, this was the situation. This is what we ended up doing. We did not see this particular result coming, but this is what I learned from it. And this is what I would do differently moving forward. This shows a learning mentality and kind of showing, okay, I know I messed up. I can take ownership. I know what to do better next time. And this is something that, especially on the C-suite level, is something that hiring managers appreciate. And here it is actually going through a couple of examples of using the STAR method specifically for this candidate. Describe the context within which you were working. So in this particular situation, it's saying, in my role as a creative manager at ABC advertising agency, I led a cross-functional team of designers, writers, and marketers to work on an ad campaign for one of our key clients. The task was to develop and execute a successful ad campaign that would resonate with the target audience and meet the client's objectives. The action is, I began by collaborating with the client to understand their creative vision. This shows the cross-collaboration kind of aspect of the creative manager role. Then we set concrete project goals and developed a streamlined project management process to ensure efficient workflows. I led the team throughout the creative process, providing guidance and feedback. And the result was that the campaign was very successful, leading to an increase in client retention rate by 30%. We also reduced delivery times by 25%, leading to an improvement in the efficiency of our workflows. It gives really great kind of examples of how to prepare for the STAR method with the candidate's experience. It then suggests how to research the company, such as take a look at the website, check out some news and updates, press releases, take a look at their social media and LinkedIn profiles, and kind of take a look at who are the competitors and how is this particular company different from the other company. And then in terms of actionable suggestions, it says make sure you have your portfolio prepared, review some of the skills that you can highlight specific to the job description and the company, role-specific preparation, kind of understanding how your background applies to this particular role and all that kind of stuff. And now that ChatGPT has kind of given us this really great overview, we wanted to create a copy and paste kind of interview package. So we're going to say, this is great. Please turn this into a comprehensive interview package that I can copy and paste and send to the candidate. And let's see what it says. It even suggests the subject line. That's awesome.
Look at that, as it puts it all out. I love this. So this is, yeah, as you say, I mean, it's often the biggest part, the most nerve-wracking, not only for the interviewee, but also you as a recruiter. If you're outside, you're hoping that who you present does well, the client wants to hire them and everything. So this really is setting them up for as much success as you possibly can, short of sitting next to them during the interview process and trying to feed them answers underneath the table. So
Definitely.
I love it. I love seeing all this and everything. So once this is finished, spitting out the different deliverables in a copy and paste format, what are you doing with it then?
So in this case, it's actually creating it in an email format. And you can then go back and say, hey, I would like to actually copy and paste this into Canva to create a really beautiful PDF. And it will change how it actually goes about providing you that copy and paste format. In this case, it's kind of still something that I would continue working on. It suggests in section 7 questions to ask and says, remember to bring some questions to the interview as well. At this point, I would kind of go through this and say, hey, specifically for the questions to ask section, I would actually go back and say, hey, ChatGPT, can you include some questions to ask, some suggestions to make this a little bit more comprehensive for our listeners out there? So we have 7 sections that ChatGPT gave us: job understanding, using the STAR method, portfolio preparation, company research, skills to highlight, role-specific preparation, and questions to ask. I would probably go back and then say, hey, for job understanding, give me some actionable to-dos using the STAR method. Give me one example of the STAR method, which it did, and then give me some other questions that they might ask me during the job interview, and then kind of give me a little bit of space to use as a workbook to actually write out the STAR method for each of the questions that ChatGPT suggests. Portfolio preparation, kind of, okay, which components to actually include to really make sure that this is really highlighting everything that I need to highlight. In this case, it would probably be a couple of examples of successful ad campaigns, the results of them, some SEO examples, and things like that. So it would be really helpful to have a list of what to include in the portfolio. Company research, we had in an earlier message, we actually had a comprehensive company research strategy. I would want ChatGPT to kind of include that in there. And this is something that you can play around with ChatGPT, depending on what you see. This is where recruiter experience and expertise, and especially knowing the hiring managers, is so incredibly helpful, because you can then go back and say, okay, let's adjust this a little bit. And once you have done this once, you can then actually just go back and say, okay, I have another candidate. Please, everything that we just did, please change it and apply it to this candidate with this resume. And that way, once you've kind of done the bulk of the work at the beginning, which is only this took us 10 minutes. You can then just go ahead and reuse this for the different candidates that are interviewing for this position. And this will just really make sure that you're sending candidates over that can also interview well, which is the risky part of being a recruiter, because you really don't know what's going on in that interview room unless you're a fly on the wall, which in my recruiting days is very rare. And this just makes sure that when you're sending quality candidates over, they interview well. And this speaks to your reputation as a recruiter, that you deliver high quality candidates that don't just have the right experience, but they know how to articulate it well. And this is especially important for executive recruiters. And this can be absolutely game changing and transforming. And it's something that creates so much value, not just for the hiring managers, but also the candidates. They will appreciate you anytime that they have any kind of business or referral. They will remember you because you went the extra mile, and the extra mile only took you 10 minutes with ChatGPT.
I love it. Oh my God, this is so valuable. And I love how scalable it really is. Like you said, you build this framework playbook once and then you tweak it to the job, the person, whatever that may be. So this was incredible. I'm super excited. Give us a little preview. What's the topic for part 3 next week?
So for part 3, we're going to take all of this together and we're going to kind of walk through best practices on an interview prep phone call that you ideally do the day before the interview. And that way you can actually practice the STAR method and go over some of the questions that are included in this package and see what does the candidate actually do with how they respond. Have they looked through this interview package? Have they practiced? Have they done the research? This will give you a good indication of how the interview is likely going to go. If they have not prepared even for the interview prep call, they have not reviewed what you sent them, this is something to kind of keep in mind, because then okay, they didn't prepare all the way. They might be kind of doing this last minute. How invested are they really in this process? And this is something that when it comes down to it and hiring managers are trying to consult you for, okay, we really don't know who's best. Give us your input. This is something where you can say, you know what, in my experience, this one candidate, he was really interested. He did a lot of homework and preparation for this interview. He's super excited. He really took his time researching all that kind of stuff. The other one obviously interviewed very well. You're considering them. Great experience and everything, just wasn't all that prepared. And that's okay. But as a recruiter, this is where you can really add value and say, hey, I've worked with these and I know who's a really good candidate who really has done the work and is really excited. This one, I kind of have an off feeling about this. And they appreciate recruiters who are really honest with them. And in some cases, sometimes you might have to decide, you know what, I actually have to withdraw this candidate from consideration. I don't think this would be a good fit. This candidate has been very inconsistent with communication. I don't know how this will translate when they're actually employed. And I want to make sure that I get you the best candidate.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's so smart, because it's not, the interview process, the hiring process does include what you do with the candidate as well. And so they might not view it that way. But like you said, your reputation, especially your relationship with the hiring manager in that company, it says a lot about it. So I will be very much looking forward to that episode. So thank you, as always, for joining us for this episode, this time. I continue to learn more and more from you every day. And I'm like, how do I get her to just come into my brain for a minute and help me figure out all this every day? So thank you as always for dropping by. I know it's going to continue to inspire recruiters to start to incorporate things like this in their day-to-day moving forward. So everyone, that's the show. That is a phenomenal Tactical Tuesday with Vivien. Until next time.
Bye, everyone.